So what we shall do is I'll just take Power BI desktop, right? So we'll start from scratch. Okay, so here is our Power BI desktop. I'll take this blank report. I hope my screen is visible, right? Okay, so what we shall do is we shall get some data, right? We can get the data from here or else directly into the Power Query. So I'll just go to transform data, right? So what I shall do is I shall click on this new source. Let me take some Excel workbook. So I have this particular, customer churn related data where the file size is of around 1 MB. Okay, just to give you some glance, what I'll do is I can just try to check this and click OK. So here let us understand the columns which are present and let us clean the data a little. Okay. So what I'll do is in order to understand the column distribution, I'll go to view pane and try to check that particular column distribution. So here you could understand that we have customer ID, right? In this particular count column, just as a reference to reporting, they have created this count related column where we do not require this. So what we can do is we can right click and remove it, right? Here we have a country column, right? We have a state column, city column, zip code. Here we have this latitude, longitude together as well as latitude and longitude separately, where they both are similar columns, right? So what I can do is I can remove this column, right? So that I can just use these two columns. Here, if I scroll to the right, we have gender column, senior citizen, right? Which means if it is yes, then the person is a senior citizen, otherwise no. We have partner, whether that particular lives with a partner or not, right? Whether the customer has a dependence or not, whether it may be family or or anyone where they have some dependence, right? We have some tenure months ranging from 1 to you could see 72, right? 72 months, it means around nearly 3 years, right? So here you could see the phone service, whether the customer is opting for phone service or not, whether the customer has multiple lines or not, or else opting for multiple lines without phone service, right? Whether the customer is opting for internet service, and if he is opting whether it is DSL or fiber optic or no internet service. We have similarly that online security related thing, backup, whether he has additional subscription to all of these features or not, right? Similarly, does he have any additional tech support or not, right? And similarly, we have similar entities related to these additional features, right? And what is the contract, what is the type of contract, whether it is month to month basis payment or 1 year payment, or whether it is 2 year contract. Okay, whether there is paperless billing or not, what is the payment method, monthly charges and total charges, right? And we have churn label, which means if the customer has left the organization or taking the service from the telecom company, then it is yes. If he didn't leave or he or she didn't leave and they are existing, then it is no, right? And here we have churn value where the particular score has been given to that particular churn value, right? Or you could understand if it is if it is this particular churn label is yes, then we have 1. If it is no, then we have 0, right? Here we have churn score where we could understand based upon several reasons that customer has to leave the company. So based upon several reasons, they have some churn score, right? And it ranges between 0 to 100. Next, we have customer lifetime value. Okay, so it is something where you could understand that during his existence, or if at all customer would have existed, right? How much overall earning or could the business could earn, right? Churn reason, these are some few of the reasons where customer left that particular services or the organization for some other reasons, right? Due to the attitude of support person, competitor had better services, competitor made better offer, right? Competitor made more data. So there this may be some possible reasons, right? So I hope data is understandable, right? And it is a very, easily understandable data. So what we shall do is we shall, no much cleaning is required here. If at all we require, we could do it, right? I'll just close and apply. Right. So here we could understand that this is a, tele churn data, right? Telecom churn data. So before starting with the visualization and anything, if there are multiple tables, we do create the modeling and other things. If there are any date related tables and others, we do create a calendar table in order to make use of time intelligence functions well. So since this is a straightforward data, we just try to start with the analysis part so that we could do some visualization gradually, right? In order to perform some calculations, we use something called as DAX, which is data analysis expressions, right? So what I shall do is, in order to save my measures or some calculations which I create, I need to have a empty table where I can get that by clicking on this enter data, right? I can create a measure table as a best practice. I can name this table as measure table and load. So let us, this is our measure table, which is an empty table. If you go to the table view and click on the measure table, you could see that it is an empty table. What you can do is you can click on this measure table and click on new measure, right? So let us write some measures, right? For example, we have seen the columns, right? Different columns you can see here. I'll just open this, right? Now you can see the columns here. So I'll just try to create some measures where you could understand some basic measures, okay, which will help us in, you know, analyzing better. First thing is, let us try to understand some, basic aggregation calculations. For example, if we want average churn score, what is the churn score, you know, that the organization has re- given for that particular customer, right? So we have that churn score column. So we just take average function and we just take that churn score column, right? So if we hit enter, we have created one measure related to average churn score. Let us create few more measures related to other things, right? So here, let us calculate average customer lifetime value, right? See, customer lifetime value, it represents a total revenue of business which can be expected from a particular customer over a period of time, right? So for example, okay, I'll just tell you here we have that CLTV column. So this is customer lifetime value where the values are calculated. In order to briefly explain you, for example, average, you could understand average purchase value, or we call it as AVP. For example, if it is maybe 50, okay, or he spends $50, right? And suppose customer he's purchasing maybe 10 times a year, so we call it as purchase frequency, suppose if it is 10 times. And suppose if the customer lifespan, okay, we call it as CL, okay, customer lifespan, how many years he is purchasing, suppose 3 years. And suppose we can understand if the gross profit margin, we call it as GM example. For example, suppose if the gross margin it is 40%, so what would be our CLTV, right? CLTV is equal to multiplication of all of this, right? 50 into 10 into 3 into, we have 40%, right? 40%. So if we calculate this, 500 into 3, 1500, right? 15 into 4, you could understand it is 600. So $600 is the output, right? So this is an example where you could understand average purchase value, how many times the customer is purchasing, what is the lifespan, and what is the gross profit margin, right? So that they could calculate this CLTV. And this, since we have got all the CLTV values, I'm just taking the average of that particular column, okay? So I can just create this measure called average CLTV. So here, if we could notice in this particular table, we have a column called contract, Okay, so here we have a column called contract here, where we could understand there are three different values: month to month, 1 year, 2 year, right? For example, if I want to calculate some average number of months based upon contract length, so what we can do is we can create some measures, right? For example, I can write average contract length. So here the value will be in months. Okay, so you can mention that it is equal to, let us write some use the iterator function. Need not worry about DAX. So gradually when you try to learn, you'll be able to understand how to use it, right? What is the table? I can use this telco churn, right? What is the expression that I'm trying to use? Okay, so here in the expression, since I have some textual data, I want to convert into values and then I have to average. So how do I use it? I can use a function called switch. Okay, so in the expression, wherever my condition is met, either I can use the true condition, or else what I can do is I can take a column, right? So what I'll do is I'll take this column called contract. If my contract column has something like month to month, okay, so if it is there, what do you want? It is one. Okay, 1 month, right? If it is something like 1 year, then it is 12 months. If it is something like 2 years, it is 24. So make sure that whatever the values that you are writing, it is matching with the values which are present in the column, right? These values which you are writing, it should match with the values which are present in the table. Just like if you see here, here we have small m, right? So make sure that you mention that small m, so that value doesn't go, right? So let us take a text card and check if the value is working, right? Average contract value. So we have some 8.84 months is the average contract length where a customer is spending, right? So in this way, we can use the DAX and we can calculate some relevant things, right? So let us move ahead and understand few more things. For example, let us try to calculate what is average monthly charge. Okay, so in order to calculate average monthly charge, what we can do is we have that monthly charges, right? Average monthly charge. We can calculate that average of, we have monthly charges column, right? We have something related to average of churned customers. Okay, so how to calculate the churned total, let us calculate total customers. Okay, so total customers, it is equal to count of, right? We can take this customer ID. So if we count it, we'll get the total customers, right? So if we see the value, for example, if we see the value, we get there are 7043 total customers, right? And if you just click on this table, just click on this customer ID, you can see that there are, 7043 distinct values. They are distinct customers. Okay, they are individual unique customers. Okay, let us understand a few more things. We have total number of customers, right? So what we can do is we can create new measure where we can create something called churned customers. To understand, churned customers means those customers who has left the services of that particular organization, right? So we can understand here we have like to calculate that particular churn customers. What I can do is I can take this total customers in the expression of calculate. In filter argument, for the churn label, here in the churn label, I can take the condition called yes, right? So it mentions that total number of customers who has left the services, right? For example, if I just uncheck this, bring that, so you can understand we have 1869 customers who has left the services due to some or other reasons, right? If I need to calculate the percentage of it, so I can calculate the percentage, right? How do I calculate? We call it as rate, right? So this churn rate is nothing but we divide churn customers with total customers, right? If there is some issue, we can get that blank as an alternate result. So we have this churn rate, right? For example, if I just see this, you can bring this churn rate is around 26 point something, right? 26.54 percentage. So in this way, you can calculate this churn rate, churn customers, and total customers, right? So we have gone through till here, right? The average monthly charges that we can see, and these things. Few more things we can create, right? For example, if we try to understand related to average revenue per service type, right? So based upon services, we can even bring that particular, revenue which is being generated. We have the total charges column. But instead, if you want to calculate our average revenue, okay, let me calculate something called total revenue first. Total revenue, it is equal to sum of total charges, right? So we have this total revenue. I'll just click on new measure. Now let me calculate average revenue per user. Okay. So this is another metric where you could understand average revenue per user, right? For example, we divide sum of monthly charges, right, with something related to count of customer ID, right? So we can just divide it like this. If you want, you can just give that alternate result as blank. So this is something related to average revenue per user. We call it in the short form, we can call it as ARPU, right? So similarly, we can calculate few more relevant metrics related to that average, right? For example, if you want average tenure, so for how much duration averagely, a particular customer is staying with us or staying with the organization services. So we can take this average of tenure months, right? So here you could understand that we have average tenure. Okay. So here I'll just try to click on this new measure. Okay, give me a moment, please. Okay. Hello. Uh, are you able to understand?
Yes, I'm able to understand.
Okay, okay. So let us see few more things which are relevant for this kind of analysis, right? For example, we have seen average tenure, right? So let us calculate something that similar average tenure for churned, you know, churned customers, right? So that we could understand how much, what is the duration that they are staying with, right? Average tenure of churned customers, right? So for example, if we take this average X, so what do we want to calculate only for churned customers, right? So we can use this filter function in order to filter that those people who has been, who has stopped the services, right? Stop taking the services. So we can give the table, right? And in the expression we can take this churn label. If it is yes, then those are the customers who has left that, taking the services. So this is our table expression. Second thing is expression where we can just give that a tenure of months, right? Because we want to calculate the average tenure of churned customers. Okay, so these are few things like where you could understand how to utilize things, right, for the, measures which are relevant. Next thing is we can calculate few more metrics which are relevant. For example, we have something called as churn cost. Okay, so here we have CLTV, where we have seen this, right? Customer lifetime value. For example, I have shown you this data, right? Here we have the CLTV column, customer lifetime value. The amount of, like it depends on several things, where the, there may be some customer related acquisition cost. We call it as CAC. Okay, based upon which company or the organization calculates something called as lost revenue. Okay, so based upon other, multiple things, based upon acquisition cost or average revenue and multiple things, organizations calculate this, customer churn cost. Okay, so here within, like with respect to our data, we have the CLT value. So based upon that, in order to calculate customer churn cost, what we can do is, let me create the measure customer churn cost, right? What we can do is we can use this iterator function, and the table which we want is only for the churn customers, right? So what we can use is the filter condition table, right? In the expression we'll give that churn label is equal to yes, because we want to calculate it for churned customers, right? And what do we want to calculate? We want to calculate that CLTV, right? Telechurn, telco churn, CLTV, right? This is how we can call, we can calculate customer churn cost. Just for your understanding, what happens is, suppose we calculate this lost revenue, right? So here what is lost revenue? Number of churned customers multiplied by average revenue per customer, right? Second thing is, what is churn cost? We can understand lost revenue, right? Plus we can calculate number of churned customers multiplied by customer acquisition costs, right? In short, we'll call it as CAC, right? Customer acquisition cost. So this is the basic kind of, calculation what you could understand. If you have certain, information related to that, you can try to do that. But here, based upon our data, we have calculated that customer churn cost, right? So we know the number of customers, right? There is one more, metric where you could understand something called as customer satisfaction proxy, right? So this customer satisfaction proxy, it is an indirect measure. So there are these other metrics, they are direct measures. There are indirect measures where it could depend upon the satisfaction based upon some direct feedback or surveys, whatever it is available. So these proxies help how, the customers are behaving based upon the interactions and outcomes. Okay, so what we'll do is, here we shall try to just create some, basic customer satisfaction proxy, assuming few things, right? I'll show that customer satisfaction proxy, right? What we shall do is we shall divide, right? we shall calculate the number of rows. So to count number of rows, we can use this count rows function. Table is our telco churn, right? And what is the other filter condition? We can, or you could say filter argument. We can give multiple things, right? So for example, the customer should be existing person. So our churn label must be no, right? So customer must be existing person. Second thing is the customer must be having the phone service. So phone service is equal to yes. Third argument is whether he must be having internet service, or we'll take that it as no, because the because of that condition whether they would be able to sell that additional services or not, right? Next thing is we can just take that something called device protection, right? If the device protection is yes, we shall consider that into satisfaction proxy. So these are certain conditions where I want to, where I wanted to calculate the number of rows based upon this, right? And here we can consider that number of total rows in this particular table by dividing that. What we'll get is some percentage of rows, or you could say percentage data, where you could understand that those particular people are, you could say, are satisfied with those things, and maybe they could opt for additional services, right? So it is just a appropriate metric, or you could say if you have some satisfaction related data with respect to customers from 1 to scale of 1 to 10, if they are satisfied in some ratio, you can take that average score of that satisfaction. So here we don't have such rating or some satisfaction score. So we are assuming that whatever the services that they are taking based upon some sample criteria, we are trying to create this satisfaction proxy. Okay, so you could explore that satisfaction proxy. It is a common terminology where you could understand how customer is satisfied, how much the customer is satisfied, and whether they would be opting for any new services or not. So similarly, what we could understand is there is in order to understand something related to service cross sell rate. So what is this service cross sell rate? I'll just try to explain you, right? So this service cross sell rate, just will what we shall do is we shall take such similar condition or sample criteria. Okay, so we shall take such sample criteria and we shall create it, right? So here we shall consider that phone service as yes, right? And okay, so here I'll just mention the difference. In the previous condition, what we did is we have taken it as a separate conditions. But here what we'll do is we'll take the conditions together. So how to take the conditions together? First thing is I'll just remove this condition called churn label is equal to no. I do not want that. Phone service, it must be yes. Along with that, it must satisfy other condition. To get that other condition satisfied, I can mention this double ampersand, which is a logical operator, right? So what I can do is I can just try to bring this phone service and internet service. You could just mention that it is okay. Let me uh, go to the previous one. Okay, so here internet service also yes, I'll take, right? At least these three basic things it must be there. Let us check the table if we have that similar data for that. Okay, so here if you see this, it is not directly yes. So we have whatever it is not equal to no, then we have to write that. So in order to write not equal to no, here what we shall do is we shall write something like this: not equal to no. right? I hope you are able to understand. I'll put a comma. Okay, so here you'll write something not equal to no because there is nothing like yes in that particular column. Now, if you see this cross service cross sell rate, here similarly we have to write not equal to no because we don't have that yes mentioned in that column. Next thing is we have device protection. We'll consider it as yes, and something related to okay, or else we can remove this service because it is not much relevant. So we can write something related to multiple lines. Okay, if the multiple lines is yes, and if internet service is not equal to no, and at the same time it should satisfy these conditions, right? So we'll put this double ampersand symbol in order to satisfy this condition as well, right? So these three conditions must be satisfied in order to get that service cross sell rate. Okay, just to mention that what is service cross sell rate, it measures, right? It measures effectiveness of a company in selling additional services to its existing customers, right? So it is something like whatever the existing customers are present, it is a it is a measure to calculate the effectiveness of a company to sell additional things to those services, right, to the customers existing. So for example, you can just try to understand like this: number of customers purchasing additional services divided by total number of customers, right? And we'll change this into percentage thing. So that is what we call it as service cross sell rate. Okay, so this is one of the metric. We shall create another measure to calculate something related to high risk customers, right? So who are high risk customers? If we understand the churn score which is given by organization, it will be ranging between 0 to 100, right? So we'll consider a criteria. If it is greater than 80, we'll consider them as high risk customers where they may tend to leave that particular organizational services, right? We'll calculate count customer ID, right? We can take the churn score greater than 80, right? If you have additional relevant data, you can just put additional criteria also. But just as an example with data with what we have, we'll consider them as high risk customers, right? For example, if you want to, calculate what is the new customer acquisition rate. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll create one more measure. So here, what we shall write is new customer acquisition rate. What I'll do is I'll divide calculate count of customer ID, right? And let us take this 10-year months less than or equal to 1. Okay, so by this we can understand that particular calculate, right? And what is the denominator that we want to calculate? Count of customer ID, right? And if we don't have relevant output, so give me blank, close the parenthesis. This is how we can calculate, you know new customer acquisition rate where the 10-year months is less than or equal to 1. We have one more metric which can be useful, which is revenue per customer. We have already seen average revenue, but per customer we didn't see, right? Right. This is average revenue per user. Okay, we have seen this. we can use this also, right? Okay, so this is average revenue per user. This is something related to monthly charges, right? You can write it as monthly average revenue per user. I'll create a new measure where I can calculate total revenue per customer, right? So here we shall write similar function, calculate the total charges, and here we can just take the count of customer ID, right? If it is not present, we can take it as blank, right? So these are some important metrics which you need to understand before we get into that visualization. So whatever we have discussed within these measures, is it understandable? Could you please confirm? I think you're on mute. Parkasri, could you please confirm if you're able to understand so far with respect to this measure table? Like what are the measures?
Yes, yes, yes. I can understand.
Do you have any query on these things?
No, no, no.
Okay, they are basic measures, but terminologies,
Okay.
if you get familiar, you'll be able to understand.
Mm.
Okay, so let us get into some basic visualization part. Okay, suppose I'll just just bring this here. Suppose we have this canvas, so we can go to format, right? You can set some background color. So here, suppose I'll just set some light grayish color, and I can decrease the transparency. So I'll just get some light grayish color. So what I can do is, first thing I can just put some heading. Okay, so I'll just click on this text box. So I can mention something like customer churn analysis. So here I'll just try to mention this color. Okay, I'll increase the font size. Okay, so maybe this font size could be sufficient. In order to remove the background, I can click on format. Just try to you know uncheck this background, right? So I can just keep it left. So it is absolutely fine. Next thing is these are cards which we have already seen, right? Suppose this is my total customers. What I can do is I can little format. For example, I don't want this category label. I can turn on title. I can write something called total customers, right? We can center align it, bold it, right? If you want to increase some font size, you can just increase some font size. Values, you can just try to decrease some size. Maybe it could be 25 or maybe 30, right? And this particular size, you can just try to create the visual border. Just keep it same color so that it doesn't look odd, right? You can round the corners, right? Suppose you can just round it to 10. So if you see this, you can just get a neat and clean and good card, just mentioning the total customers, right? Similarly, what you can do is you can just format it, right? You can select this format and click on that. So what is this? Churned customers, right? So I can just go to title. I can write churned customers. So what is the size of it? You can just see the size of it. 98, 188, right? 98, 188. So you can just put in the same row, right? Similarly, you can have this percentage calculation, right? This is called as churn rate. And here 98, 188, right? So similarly, what we can do is we can additionally, bring some more metrics which we have created. Suppose we can bring something called total revenue, right? So in this, I can bring this total revenue, change the title called as total revenue, right? So here I can just bring something called revenue per customer, right? And even monthly revenue and total revenue per customer also I can bring. So what I can do is I can remove this average monthly average revenue per user, right? So if you see this, we have, okay, this is division, right? This is monthly charges, okay. Next thing is, similar to this, we have this total average revenue, right? Total average revenue, and instead of this particular measure, we can bring this particular measure, right? So this is our total average revenue. So in order to properly align it, so what you can do is you can select all those measures which are present, right? First one, second one. If I try to go to format, align horizontally, now there will be equal spaces, right? So these are some important metrics where it will help you to understand some, key things to understand. What I'll do is a little format it. Okay, so we have these things. Let us do one thing. In order to bring that average values, so what I can do is I can bring these average values, right? Let us take a matrix. So all that average related things, we can make it into particular matrix, right? So even you can take multi-row card, but what happens is that multi-row card, you'll not be able to properly format it. Or individual text cards, it will increase multiple things. So what you can do is you can bring few things here, right? First thing is we can bring something called average revenue per user, right? So let us bring this particular monthly average, right? Next thing is average churn score, right? Average CLTV, average contract length, and average monthly charge. We have it here, right? Average monthly charge of churned customers, right? And also average tenure of churned customers. We have average tenure, right? Mm, did I miss anything? We have this average tenure, average monthly charge. Did we mention this? Okay. Let me create one more measure which could be relevant for average, average monthly charge for churned customers, right? So here what we can do is we can create new measure, average monthly charge of churned customers. So here we'll write average X. So just like earlier we have seen that, right? Let me write. So in the expression, we can write this monthly charges. So along with this, if you could see, what we can do is along with the average tenure, we can bring this particular thing which is relevant to. Okay, let me click on this. Okay, I think we have got this. Okay, next thing is average tenure. So we have all these things. If you want to see in this build thing, right, you can click on this build. You'll be able to see all these metrics which are present here, right? So we can just even keep it like this. Right now, suppose that you want it, you want to see it well in the horizontal format. What you can do is you click on format, go to this particular values, click on options. You have something called switch values to rows. If you switch it, now you'll be able to see the difference, right? So you'll be able to see the difference of values here. Like what I can do is I can just turn off this, click on values, you can increase it to little, right? Or else even increase it to more, not a problem. Check that values, it is 23, right? Row headers is very high, right? No problem. Always try to use that minimal font, right? Usually 12 is sufficient, but I'm trying to format it little better. Okay, so this thing, suppose if you see this, all banded kind of rows is there and these lines are there, right? If you want to format it, what you can do is you can just click on this particular grid, right? You can turn off, right, horizontal grid lines. You can just keep it white. Okay, even if you turn off it is right, click on this border, right? In this, if you see this, we have by default blue color, right? So what I can do is I can just click on this particular column header, or else like I have removed that this thing. I'll click on all, right? I'll click on this white, right? So it make it's it makes it white. Next thing is you can select this. You can just click on this bottom. If you select this blue, you'll select that and you can select top and bottom, right? Top and bottom we have got that lines. If you just select that left and right also, you'll get this left and right, which we don't want. So I just want top and bottom to keep it little better. Next thing is we have something layout and style presets. In this we can keep it something minimal, right? So that the values are minimal, like minimal appearing. Here we have one more line on the top. So I can uncheck that. So it will be gone, right? You can increase the width of it so that it will increase that width. You can see that, right? So this may look better, right? As a values to understand. So these are few things, or else you can even if you try to have some better way to represent these values, you can try those out, right? And you can just try to represent in this way. Or else what you can do is you can just try to, if you just hover over here, you can see you can adjust this column also, right? Like this you can adjust, it will be adjusted, and you can just try to drag it like this. Okay, so these are some average values where I could understand. So what I can do is I'll try to, I have lot many columns, right? So all these relevant columns, if you see in this telco churn, they are more relevant to these particular things, right? How they are taking the services, and like if I want to exclusively understand the churn rate based upon the services which they are taking and based upon these multiple criterias. So one good chart that I believe we could take it is something like bar chart, right? For example, if I take this churn rate related to something called contract. So if I take this contract, here we have contract into y-axis and churn rate into x-axis. What I'll do is I'll go to format, turn the data labels on, right? Go to bars, change the color to little darker so that it could be better. So here title I can keep it middle aligned, bold, and also what I can do is I can try to remove that y-axis title. I can click on y-axis, remove the title, right? In x-axis I can remove the title. So now you can see a clean, neat, clean and neat particular bar chart with percentage values based upon the churn rate, right, for contract. So what I can do is I can round the corners of it. So I can just turn on that visual border, quickly make it the same color and round the corner to 10. And similarly, I can just do the same for this particular thing. Right? So here you could see this thing, right? So just the similar way to contract, I have multiple other things, right? So what I can do is I can just try to, instead of contract, I can keep on replacing multiple things, right? So what are the multiple things that I could see? Maybe the relevant online security, right? So instead of this, I can take that online security, right? So these are different percentages if you notice. So similarly, I can just take this something relevant to online backup, or you could say multiple lines. So instead of multiple lines, we have online protection, right? Device protection. So I can just use my keyboard and adjust the space in between that so that I can bring some space for the bottom one, right? Just like this. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this. Along with that, let me bring few more things, right? For example, device protection we had. Let me take online backup. Hmm, backup. So if you see this, we are not able to see this, not able to see this internet service or phone services, right? So what you need to do is go to x-axis, increase this maximum custom width. Similar to that, increase this here, increase that. And if you see these two visuals, if you see the data labels, you need to make that position outside in, right? So that it is a better practice to keep that data labels outside of it. Similar to that, you need to make such formatting changes here. You can just try to go to data labels, change the position to outside end, right? And also that particular y-axis, make it that maximum width, right? So here I can just bring few more visuals related to internet service and multiple things, right? So I can bring something relevant to internet service. I can bring something relevant to paperless billing. What I can do is I can little adjust some space here, align this properly, and can bring few more things, right? So values, I'll try to reduce it to 12, and row headers, I'll reduce it to 12, right? Here we can accommodate one more visualization. Let me take one more visualization which mentions about the departments, right? Dependents. And one more thing related to what we call it as, right? We have all the things, like one more thing which is left is partner, right? Whether the customer has partner or not, you can select that. So we try to bring all these relevant things where we try to analyze, right? Although they are similar charts, but for better representation of, or for better understanding about churn rates with respect to all the things, we can just take this as a good, you know, example. Or if you can just play with the visualization, whatever the suitable visualization that you can find for yourself, you can try to use that. I'm just trying to show you some, metrics relevant to that and try to help you understand it, right? I can decrease some size, can just make it align like this. The width, sometimes you might require to little adjust better, right? Right. Maybe in this way, you could try to arrange your things and analyze, right? Now, in order to slice and dice, you can create a slicer, right? What what is a slicer that we can take depending on the data which we have? If you see this data, so initially we have only one country and one state, right? So there is no use of making that slicer. We can take the slicer of city, right? So what we can do is we can try to make the slicer city. Go to format, go to this thing, make it a drop down, right? In order to little make it better, so what we can do is we can just turn off the background. Now go to values and you can just turn on this background and set to something white. What it does is it will just set this particular inner box to white and other rest of the things to darker, right? I have got that city. If you want to highlight, you can highlight it, but this is sufficient to for me to understand. Next thing is, suppose if I want to understand with respect to gender also, I can do it. For example, if I just take the gender column, I can take that, right? We have male and female. Okay. For example, just to make you understand about interaction, right? Here we do not have anything relevant to the same column which interacts like that, right? So whatever the gender you choose, you could see all the particular values are changing based upon that you choose, right? If you choose the respective city, you're able to see that, respective things here. Okay. So this is one thing. Let me let me call it as churn rate. Let me take a new page or let me duplicate that page. Based upon customers, I can try to bring few more things, right? So let us, you know, delete all these visuals. Let us understand and analyze few more things, right? Which may be suitable. For example, instead of total customers, let me bring something relevant to, maybe we could call that as high risk customers, right? We have high risk customers. We have 1050 high risk customers. I'll mention this as high risk customers. Okay. Second thing, we can take something called as cross service cross sell rate. Okay, so here what we can do is we can try to write it as service cross sell rate, and let me change it into percentage. This thing, right? Let me change it into percentage. So you can see it is around 37%, right? And if you try to increase the decimal, go to value, you can just increase the decimal to one more decimal. You can just get that particular decimal values, right? Here also you can increase. Like these two, has little difference how they work, but you need to make sure that you increase here, right? 37.33% it is, right? Next thing is we can have that customer satisfaction proxy which I have mentioned. So this would be also in percentage. It is around 23 percentage, right? So what do we call it as? Customer satisfaction proxy. Next, we have something relevant to revenue per customer, right? So we have already shown that, right? Revenue per customer. Yes, total average revenue. So maybe we could take something relevant to new acquisition rate, new customer acquisition rate. We can take this, right? So here we didn't mention the customer average customer churn cost, right? So we can bring that here. So it is huge cost, but maybe if we have some sufficient data, we could dive deeper. So these are few metrics, and maybe one more metric what we can create. We have used this, right? So I hope this is all like we can remove this metric and just keep it like this here. Format, align, distribute horizontally, right? Now it is spreaded, in the normal way. So let us bring few more things, right? For example, what I'll do is I'll just take a bar chart, right? So here in y-axis, let me bring cities, right? And in x-axis, let me bring the total charges, right? So what is the total charges we have? Total revenue, right? So I'll bring that total revenue. Let me format it. Data labels, change this color to little darker, and data labels to maybe some values related to thousands, right? Thousands are better, right? Okay. Next thing is we can turn off the titles, right? You can turn off the title, and we can turn off this particular y-axis values. We can't turn off. X-axis values we can turn off, right? And suppose if I want top 5 cities, so in the filters in that cities, I can just choose this top n. I'll enter 5 based upon total revenue. If I bring apply filter, so these are the 5 cities which produces the top revenue according to the data. So you could understand, if at all I could little format it, I can go to the title, middle align it. I can align this visual like this, right? I can go to this visual border, turn it on, get the same color, keep it 10. So similarly, what we can do is we can just try to bring some relevant, data, something relevant to monthly charges, right? So instead of total charges, so what we can do is we can calculate based upon the monthly charges. So for monthly charges, we can take this average monthly charge, or else what we can do is we can calculate a new measure to get that monthly charges. It is okay to bring that implicit measure also, but as a good practice, you can just try to bring that monthly charges. So here, instead of this total revenue, we can bring this monthly charges, right? And we can see the city filter. You can see top, instead of top revenue, we'll bring this based upon the monthly charges. Apply filter. Okay, so we have few more things. Right? For example, let us take a column chart, right? And let us understand few churned reasons why the customer has, the reason why the customer has left. Sahana, from Monday the sessions will be conducted, in the evening, maybe between 8 to 9, I believe. uh, like uh, Feel free to, unmute and, ask your query, not a problem.
Sir, daily at which time class will start, sir?
Okay, like it, usually the three people have enrolled, 3 to 4 people. And if you are interested, have you seen the brochure, Sahana?
No, sir, but before someone test me, you are can but I thought it is a free class like that.
Okay, this is free class. If we conduct, some webinars and, in some weekends like this. Okay, so if you are interested, you can of course join the webinars. And if you are interested in attending the paid sessions, which are, which is a around 65 plus, or you could say nearly 70 live sessions related to Power BI, SQL, and Azure, you could, feel free to drop text in the WhatsApp group. Right, like uh, share you once we are done with this session. Like please wait for few minutes. I'll share the curriculum and explain you. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Like this session, I think you have attended only few minutes ago, right?
Yes, sir. That's why
Okay.
I don't know. That's why I'm asking at which time class will start. Like,
Okay. This session has started at 7 o'clock. It is about to end. Few people joined and then they left in between. Unfortunately, you are the last one.
no, sir. Right now I joined this class.
Yes, yes. Usually, free webinars it happens in weekends occasionally, right? And apart from that, paid sessions will be, starting from Monday.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Like a weekend only free classes of this.
Mostly yes, on weekends. If it is in weekdays, like you'll be informed in the group.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you. So here, if we could try to understand the reasons of leaving the organization with the customers, we have this churn reason column, right? Here, what we can do is we can, in x-axis, we can bring this churn reason, and in y-axis, we can understand the churn customers who has left the organization. So I can bring this churn customers. So we have multiple reasons why the customers has left that particular organization. So among these, if we want to find the top 5 reasons, so what I can do is I can just try to, you know, click on this filter, churn reason, click on top 5, here enter 5. From the measures, you can just bring that churn customers, add here, apply filter. So these are 5 important reasons why the customers has left the organization. So what you can do is you can try to format it a little, right? So you can just take that format, you change that particular columns to this color, right? Y-axis I can turn off the title, X-axis I can turn off the title, and title I can just keep it middle aligned, and I can just align the visual, right? Just like this. And even I believe you could try to turn on that data labels, and you can turn off the values of y-axis because it is not required. We have these are the major reasons, and this is the number of churn customers, right? Churn customers by churn reason, and total here we can change that particular thing. Top 5 cities by revenue, by total revenue. Here you can write top 5 cities by monthly revenue. Right, you can bold the heading so that you could understand well. Next thing is we have something relevant to, right? We shall see that payment method, and then here we shall try to reduce a little size. Let me copy this visual. So instead of churn reason, what I can do is I can bring something related to payment method, right? So here I have something called payment method. I can bring it into x-axis. I have this payment method, churn customers by payment method. And additionally, if we want, we can just bring something relevant to, you can say that relevant to contract, right? So here, instead of this, we can bring something relevant to contract. And this one, you can just make it like this, right? And if you go to format, go to y-axis, increase this particular width. Now I believe it is understandable, and you have the certain values, right? And this, space alignment, you can just try to make it better. So this rounding, what you can do is you can just try to format it. Right. So in this way, you could try to understand how to do the channel analysis and write the necessary measures and create a good report just like this, right? So this is all for today, and we can just save it with the name called Telecom Customer Churn Analysis. Okay, so done from my end. Sahana,
Yes, sir.
yes, yes.